are joined by Sam Kahn, theathletic.com. And Sam, you just heard the news about players' availability. No surprise on yours. Oklahoma's wide receiver room has been decimated. But let's start with Cam Rising. It appears finally the wait is over.
Are we saying that we actually got real injury update information from Utah before the game kicked off? Is that, am I hearing that correct? We must be in the twilight zone right now.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long and lingering, painful thing for Utah fans and for the media covering them too. I mean, I think this has been tough for them.
Yeah, I think this is why when you saw the SEC and the Big Ten adopt these availability reports, I thought really all conferences should adopt them. Certainly the power conferences should. Texas Tech has done it in the Big 12, but I would love to see everybody do it just to kind of take the ambiguity out of it. And it's fine. If he's questionable, that's fine. Just we like to know something. And Isaac Wilson's a talented guy, and I think he's got a bright future, but this team is clearly different with Cam Rising in the lineup. And with him being there, this is such a big game for them this weekend. I think it's going to be huge for Utah and certainly makes you look at them in a much more positive light.
Yeah, and look, they're playing an Arizona State team that's pretty good. I mean, they I don't know how much they've truly been tested yet, and this will be their biggest one so far. But I mean, Sam Levitt looks like he's getting better every week. Cam Scadaboo's good, and Kenny Dillingham's got good vibes there in Tempe.
Yeah, I really love how hard this team plays. I think that's the thing that stands out the most to me is they play a lot cleaner than they did last year. I think in year one, you saw a lot of the types of mistakes that you would see in the first year of a program when guys are getting adjusted to schemes and new coaches and things of that sort. But I see a team that plays much cleaner now, much more disciplined. And I think the quarterback situation was a thing that I had a big question about coming in because they took Levitt and they also took Jeff Sims in the spring window. And I was wondering, like, what are we really doing here? And from a quarterback standpoint, but I think Levitt's been terrific. And Cam Scadabo is, I just thoughts and prayers to anybody who has to tackle that guy, because that looks like a painful task. He's so physical. He's so strong. He runs angry, I feel like, all the time. And he's such an effective player for them. So this is really going to be a good game because I think you have a Utah team who you thought is supposed to be here right now. And you have an Arizona State team who maybe not necessarily was supposed to be because of where they were picked in the preseason. So they're kind of playing with house money. But this is positioning the Big 12 race up for grabs here. So this is going to be a really fun one.
Sam, Red River, I mean, it's a massive game every single year, but this the first time in the SEC. Texas with that #1 ranking, and Oklahoma not where they would typically be, but still top 25 and all that, and maybe with a little bit of hope now with the quarterback change. The spread's like 14.5 the last I looked. Are you anticipating a Texas effort that's, one where they run away with this thing, or is this Red River and it's going to get crazy? Kind of where do you sit on the fence when it comes to Oklahoma, Texas?
I think it'll start crazy because this game, regardless of point spread, is usually going to include some drama in it. And I went back and looked in the last 20 years, there have been 7 of these games that have had double-digit point spreads, and only 5 of those times the double-digit favorite did not cover. Now, the double-digit favorite has won 6 of those 7, but it's been closer than that double-digit point spread each of the times it's been that big. So I wouldn't be stunned if Oklahoma covered. That said, when I look at it, and especially here in the news earlier today, I think Pete Thamel reported that Deion Burks is probably going to be out for them. They're already decimated at receiver. You're starting a freshman quarterback. I think Oklahoma's biggest chance to stay in this game is we're relying on that defense, which has really been one of the best statistically in the country this year, and getting some turnovers like they did last year. That's really what shot Texas, was the turnovers. They were -3 in the turnover margin. If Texas takes care of the ball, then I just don't see a way that OU can keep up. So if they take care of the ball, I think Texas covers. If they don't, and it gets a little wild, then I think it could really get interesting.
There are 4 games this week. There's some teams that have the off week, but I tell you what, Kansas State at Colorado, 9:15, ought to be a huge audience. K-State bouncing back with the win that they had this past week. Colorado gets the week off after a couple of big-time wins. Your thoughts about that one in Boulder?
This is a really big one for a couple of reasons. You got K-State, who I think has been what we thought they would be. Of course, they dropped 1, but this is a chance to go in and really solidify yourself in the race going into the second half. And you have a Colorado team who I think for the first time after they win and beat UCF in UCF in the way that they did, I think we're taking them seriously. Now, I certainly am, because this is a team that I think a lot of us have looked at as kind of smoke and mirrors to a certain degree because of the issues they had on the offensive line, the lack of a run game, all the pressure that Shedeur Sanders endures. But they're finding ways to win games, man. Of course, I mean, you guys remember the Baylor game, and being able to pull themselves out of that one was really huge. And being able to go I think that was a statement game last week for them. Hosting this one late night, this is a chance for them to really stamp themselves as like, hey, you'd have to take them seriously as a Big 12 title game contender if they come away with this one. So this is a big one for multiple reasons.
Do you think that Kansas State can throw the ball to a win if they have to in this one? Because if their defense lets Shedeur out of the well, he can make a lot of things happen down the field, and they might have to get in a shootout to win it.
Yeah, I think so. I know Avery Johnson's been up and down, but I still am really high on his talent and his ceiling. And I think when push comes to shove, he'll be able to do it. What happened to BYU a couple of weeks ago, I chalked that up to just, hey, first big time road game, young quarterback. Not to say, I mean, this is a very similar spot, but I think that experience is going to help him, and I think you're going to see him take better care of the ball this time. That one, not to be disrespectful to BYU because they've earned everything they've gotten, but that was a really wild game the way that one played out. So I don't anticipate Avery being overwhelmed by this setting now that he's kind of been in it one time and knows what he's in for. So I do think if they have to, they can, but obviously their bread and butter is in the run game. That's where they're going to be most of the day.
How surprised are you? It's interesting. There's tiers developing. There's like that tier of teams that are competing for, the title that are 2-0, 3-0 right now. And then there's these teams that are just crashing towards the bottom. TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma State, though. Like, how surprised are you by what we have seen from the Cowboys and Mike Gundy? It's just messy and doesn't seem like it's in a good spot right now.
Yeah, it really does. And you have questions now about the quarterback. I thought at some point they were going to flip the switch because we saw this last year when they struggled out of the gate, and then they flipped the switch and then went on the run that took them to the Big 12 title game. But this is a program that's struggling in a big way that none of us anticipated because of how much they brought back. I think that's what I want to see from them is I want to see, can they dig themselves out? Can they get some kind of positive momentum to build on? Because if they do, Gundy and this staff have proven that they can get this to string wins together and get things going. They just need that one spark, but they just haven't been able to get it yet.
Sam, you've been to the State Fair for Texas OU, right?
Yes.
What is, if you could walk in the door and there's one thing you can eat, and that is it, of everything there, which, my God, there's everything there, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. It's a Fletcher's corny dog. That's the first thing you got to go get.
With
I actually asked
and everything. Yeah,
mustard. Yeah, mustard only. I'm not a ketchup guy. I love ketchup, but not on a Fletcher's corny dog. It has to be mustard only. But I asked Steve Sarkisian and Brent Venables this because actually I'm doing a story that should be out tomorrow on The Athletic about Fletcher's corny dogs because of how intertwined it has become with the game. Because when you go to Red River and you walk in the fairgrounds, you go over by Big Tex and the Fletcher stand, and it's filled with people dressed in crimson or burnt orange, and the lines are insane. But the dogs are really good. There's like a crunch there to them, and I just can't explain it. It's heaven on a stick. I love it.
Yeah, you can't have a corn dog that's a little soft. You want to have,
no.
Like you said, yeah.
And the way they I did a thing a couple years ago. My God, when Baylor and Texas Tech played there at the Cotton Bowl. One year I did a thing in the pregame show where they took me around and let me taste some food and stuff. And I got to watch them make it. And I was like, I'm not going to the game. Can I just hang out with you guys and make corn dogs all day? This is really good. That's also the day that I got Josh Gordon suspended for a whole game by telling Ken Starr that they'd only get suspended for a half. So
that was the Taco Bell with Willie Jefferson fall asleep at the wheel deal. Remember that one, Sam? You make me too young for that one.
That was a while back. I don't know that I was covering Baylor at that time, so I don't think I remember that one.
Yeah. So Josh Gordon and Willie Jefferson went to Taco Bell, stoned out of their gourd, and fell asleep at the window.
The only way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and they got suspended for the first half. And so I'm doing the pregame show, and I was talking to Ken Starr, who was the president at the time, and he came and he goes, hey, what about our erstwhile little Taco Bell guys? I said, oh, they're suspended for the first half. And then between that time and the time I got to the press box, they'd been suspended for the whole game.
Yeah.
Paul,
So-
I did not take you for a narc. Come on, Paul. What are we doing? Oh, my gosh.
He absolutely did.
I did not look at Coach Briles in the eye for about 3 weeks. I was not gonna. I was like, I mean, he could have found out numerous other ways because I found out on Twitter. So, I mean, I could have been Twitter. But it was definitely not Twitter. It was definitely me.
Sam Conn, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Craig?
Sam, nationally got some pretty good games this week. How about number 2 versus number 3? How do you feel about Oregon and Ohio State out in Eugene?
This is going to be a lot of fun. You got 2 transfer quarterbacks who we are obviously intimately familiar with in this conference from seeing Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard. The one test for me in this one is Will Howard's been in some big games. Can he go and pull it off and step it up in this spot? Because this is a huge one. This is going to be the biggest game he's played in his career. I think Dylan Gabriel has been in some big spots, obviously winning Red River last year. But this one for Will Howard, I think, is going to be unlike anything he's seen. And that's where I want to see if Ohio State can tilt this one in their favor, because I think it's going to come down to how well he handles pressure, how well he throws the ball, and also how well Ohio State can establish their run game. But these are 2 teams that I think we both expected to be in the national championship hunt. I don't think the result on Saturday is going to change any of that unless one of them just gets absolutely have their doors blown off. But if it's a competitive game like we think it is, I think both these teams are still going to be playing for something down the stretch.
Sam, what are your thoughts? The SEC and Big Ten having their powwow in Nashville. There have been these alternate options for whatever might happen with super leagues, et cetera. I don't see any of that working because I don't see the SEC and Big Ten wanting it to work. What are your overall thoughts on some of these almost like spring football leagues in the NFL that say they're going to compete?
I don't like the idea of the most recent one that came out, this Project Rudy thing that proposes that they essentially take the 70 teams and then they don't play Group of 5 and they don't play FCS. I don't like it one bit. I think you're essentially creating a real break. You're essentially making a separate subdivision at that point. You're taking the FBS and you're splitting it into 2 by doing that. I don't like it. I think it's a bad direction. What my fear is I think what the Big Ten and the SEC might do is take a lot of these ideas that are coming with these from these private equity firms and then shove private equity out and say, you know what, we don't need your help. We're just going to do this ourselves. And the Big Ten and the SEC are going to take their ball and do it themselves. I think we're all a little naive to think that that's not where we're headed at some point. Every action that Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti take, or those 2 conferences take in the last year plus, has really pointed us in the direction of their continuing to grab the power from having a larger share of the college football playoff revenue in the contract that starts in 2026, for lobbying for more automatic bids other than the other conferences in the future playoff setup. All this points to we're going to grab as much power as we can. So whether it's this format or it's another format, the bottom line is I think the Big Ten and the SEC are trying to create an unequal playing field.
Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Craig? All right. Thank you very much, Sam. Great to see you. Enjoy your stories coming out tomorrow on the State Fair and menus and all that.
On Corny Dogs, baby. Yep.
All right. Thank you very much. Sam Conn with us on Thursdays and sometimes Fridays, depending on his writing schedule with theathletic.com.